You have no idea how this story wounds me now in the retelling. All of his life, my son had someone holding his hand, someone to kiss his brow, to soothe his tears, to chase the monsters from his bed. Every day until the early morning of February 18th. This lesson is so cruel and absolute. I so want to be the hero, to do what we have been unable to do thus far. It feels like our darkest hour.
We acknowledge and respect the Indigenous people on whose ancestral territories we work and play, whether the land is unceded or ceded. Your relationship with this land and your culture is one we admire wherever we are. We are committed to truth and reconciliation through regular, meaningful actions. Hey, Heather. Hate to text you like this. Haven't seen Ryan since last night and starting to get worried about him. We ended up filing a police report, so I wouldn't be surprised if the police give you a call as well. Just thought I should let you know. It was February 17th, 2018, at a residence on Burfield Drive in Sun Peaks, British Columbia. 20-year-old Ryan Shtuka, a worker at Sun Peaks, was seen getting ready to leave the small party the next day at 2:10 a.m. Nobody remembers him leaving, and people who arrived shortly after do not recall seeing him there. He vanished and was never seen again. Hello, Heather. Thanks for joining me. It's wonderful to meet you in person, and got a chance to meet your husband, Scott, earlier. So as we call him the arm candy.
Yeah, he is. He is definitely my arm candy.
He's doing the good job there. We're going to walk today along the route that Ryan may have taken on the night that he went missing. But I want you to tell us about your boy Ryan first.
Gosh, that's so difficult because he was so many things to so many people. So I can only tell you what he meant to us. And I always think he was smart and he was funny and he was loyal and he was athletic and, he was kind and he was sarcastic and he teased, I think typical what you expect from a 20-year-old young man. I think his friends probably have a whole bunch of different adjectives. But at the end of the day, I think sometimes, how do you really capture someone's soul in so many words, that are just words to describe people? And I think that I find that answer or that question to be the most difficult one to answer, because I want so much for people to understand how loved and how much he mattered and how wonderful he was and what a gift he was in our life. And I feel like the words that I use to describe him never seem to be enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so he was all of that and then so much more.
Yeah. And I certainly, felt his personality in this fun-loving brother that loved to pick on his sister. So
he did.
Being a brother, I know what that's like. And
I think they could have done well without a lot of the teasing, but now I think that's another one of the parts that they probably miss the most as they grow up, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so you've focused on communication, and there's often a focus on communication, but it's a second thought in a lot of things that happen. For your search for Ryan, it's highlighted how key communication has been. Right. And there's little doubt that text that you received day of changed everything. Tell me about that text and the importance of communication from there onward.
I think you always look back and it's like a defining moment. It is, where life was at one point and suddenly it changes in a way that you can never get back. And that text was exactly that moment, thinking everything was fine, receiving the text from James and actually never really looking at it right away. I was like, oh, it's from James. I'll get to it when I'm finished my conversation that I'm already having. And, you look back now and you think there was that 5 more minutes, I think, of bliss of not knowing that your life was just about to collapse beneath you. And that's what that communication did. I mean, could it, I don't know if the actual text was like, hey, Heather, Ryan didn't come home last night and didn't show up at work today, and we filed a missing persons report, or the police should be contacting you. I don't know like if there is a gentler way of saying it, can you ease into it? Do you rip the bandage off? I don't think that there was any communication that could have been had in that moment that would have made it better to take in, or would have made it less challenging or heart-wrenching or grief-stricken. I don't think there was. But from that moment on, it was all sorts of venues of communication, like how we communicated with our daughters. And for me, I was in shock. Scott's in that fix mode. I have to go and get these things. I have to make a list. We got to pack the truck. We've got to do all these things. And I'm just like, what do you pack for something like this? Like, how long will we be there? What do you need? What's going to happen with the girls? Like, what does this all mean? And you're just sitting there shell shocked. And then I look at the faces of my daughters, and you recognize that communication becomes key to them. Even, those gentle lies that I told in the beginning that we never then told afterwards, but the gentle lie that saying, your brother's probably with some girl, or and just forgot, his phone died and he's passed out and he had a good night and he decided to skip work. All of those things that we knew not to be true. It was just not in his character. And he would never have missed work. And it just wasn't his personality. And yet you're willing to believe any lie that you can, and you're willing to tell any lie that you can, just so that you can have perhaps 1 or 2 more minutes of being blissfully unaware. And so we did tell that gentle lie to the girls, and they knew it for what it was, right? There was no they're like, they knew their brother as much in that sense that we did. But after that, our communication had to become very clear with the girls. We had to, there was no, there is a sense, because Juliana was 11 at the time and Jordan was 17, like how much can they handle? But the fact is that it affected their life so profoundly that I think it would have been a disservice not to at least be fair to them and give them what we thought they could handle. Now the 17-year-old is going to be able to handle a whole lot more information than the 11-year-old. And that was at the beginning. However, as time went by, interestingly enough, you're out with people, and people would come into the command center. And Juliana would be so quiet. She's 11 years old, quiet. She's not in school. She's sitting there trying to keep herself busy or doing some schoolwork or whatever that she was doing. And people would forget her presence there. And then they would come up and feel the need to tell me what they thought might have happened to Ryan. Not knowing, maybe for some, maybe not caring as much, and saying it so that, she heard it. She heard it all. And I think in that sense, she got way more information than our daughter Jordan ever did, because she wasn't here really much at the time. And yet I look at Juliana, and even now she'll be 20 in September, and how she absorbed it and took it in and was able to filter it and still retain this beautiful innocence about people is incredible to me. So our communication, the communication between Scott and I, was also really important. I think up until that point, we're almost 23 years married. I mean, so communication is sort of like, you've already established that pattern, but we had to rethink it. Right? Because we're telling each other the most difficult things that no parent should have had to hear, and you don't know how to say it. And I think for us, we were lucky that we had other people with us at the time. So Scott was able to say his fears to his group and had that kind of open communication with them. I was able to have a very different type of communication with my friends. And then when we came together, we were able to talk about, how our day went, talk about the memories of Ryan, talk about what we loved most, and, the funny things and our frustrations. And it wasn't sort of a competing exercise of what you're doing or what you believe and what I may believe at that time. Because what's happened to our son is that ambiguous loss. We actually have no idea what's happened to him. So, we go up and down, ebb and flow about what we think. And so I might be on a very different stage and coming in thinking one thing, and Scott's very differently thinking something else. And that can cause a lot of strife when you're talking to one another. And we had to learn how to set that aside and actually hear one another, because that's the other part of communication, right? You can talk for someone to respond, or you can talk so that and the other person's should be listening, right? And so we had to really define that and how that was going to go, right? And that's just with our friends and our family and our loved ones. That isn't even communication out in the world, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, as emergency responders moved out, your search team moved in. The communication tools, what communication tools did you use among that team in public communications, and anything you learned along the way, such as what you would do differently?
Well, I mean, we had one day of searching on that Sunday, and then they went home. Now, mind you, search and rescue did come back the following Saturday, but by that time they were doing the exact same things that we were doing. It wasn't rescue, it was recovery. And so it was hard, despite their expertise, it was hard at that time to feel like they were any different than us as volunteers going out, or the family looking, because we're all just looking. And so, when we came together and had the command center, everything happened almost accidentally. However, we did have a network and a set of skills that was easily applicable to our situation. So Scott had networking with people within his industry, so was able to get equipment that perhaps not everybody would be able to get. I was doing internal communications, external communications with my job at the airline, and so I just take I took those lessons, like making sure you're thanking people sincerely, making sure you outlined your expectations, that sort of thing. And so, bringing that in when you're commanding, people are setting them up for success to go out and search. We took all of those pieces and we made them into sort of what we always came and said, it is no longer about us as individuals. I said to my parents too, like when they came to work at the command center, I'm like, you need to put whatever your thought process is behind you. And we are now working for Ryan. So we are all under this umbrella for Ryan, Team Ryan, whatever you want to call it. And so you need to be more than you ever thought you could be, because if in communication, you could spend a lifetime building up a brand, or having established trust within your entity that you're working on, and it takes little to no time for you to ruin it. 30 seconds and you could ruin everything. And so we always thought it's important for us to continue to advocate, to search and find Ryan, and we had to make sure that we did that in a way that was honorable, that we were clear about, we were transparent about, and it was for Ryan. We couldn't lose any of that momentum, right?
Absolutely. So, no, and it's so true. And you used a lot of, used a Facebook group was a main tool that I saw. What other types of things did you use to communicate with people, whether it's in person or online?
We always, the Facebook again was accidental. I think that the fact that I did post is that, you kept getting those notifications coming from Facebook. Have you found them? Have you found them? People we didn't know, because they stumbled across it, and then they were checking in to see what the status was. And instead of constantly replying to each one, which can be tiring, and we didn't have the time for that, I decided to do one post. And then for me, that was cathartic. And then we continued on, and that was our main frame of reference to get the information out. Now, certainly we did lots of news, was very prevalent in those first couple of weeks and months, is that we had news reporters come out. They covered the story quite a bit. We had some podcasts, things like that. So that helped generate. But I think our biggest platform would have been Facebook.
Yeah, and then a lot of in-person,
and a lot of in-person, certainly, right? In the command center, we were talking about Ryan. We were having, we had over 1,100 volunteers that came out to search for Ryan over the space of that 4.5 months. The majority of them had come up more than once. And so you get to know them. And for me, I think that was the other thing that, I recognized that was my thing. And if you asked Scott, he would be sitting there going, it was the one thing that he hated most of all, is that, don't get in an argument with me, because I will remember what you were wearing when we had the discussion. I will remember exactly what the weather was like and all of those things. So for some reason, I was able to translate that and use that when people come in. I could remember the things about them that they they came in last time. So how's your mother? How's your, and for me, that was sincere. Like it was my only way of connecting with people, who were coming up and giving of themselves to search for my son. Yeah. So you can't make that up. You have to be genuine. And for me, that was the one thing that I could make to connect, because not all the time I could remember people's names. And that's, I think, my biggest heartbreak now. Yeah. Even though people will understand it, it hurts me to know that someone comes up and they're like, I came up on the bus, or I was on the plane, or I came up and I drove for whatever to come up and search for your son. And I'm like, I don't remember them. Yeah. But they played such a huge part and gave us so much comfort and joy, the fact that they came up and gave of themselves, and I can't remember. Now they understand that, but it's hard, right? Yeah.
A little break from the interview to tell you about my little caterpillar, Butterfly Effect Communications. We are proud to support a wide range of organizations, from First Nations to local government. We excel at working in remote and rural populations, helping you navigate issues, crisis, emergencies, and disasters. While we are masters of doom and gloom, we do regular public relations, public participation, and public awareness for almost anything. We like big, gnarly projects that you trust with almost no one, such as the one that will see us guiding more than 50 public participation events per year over the next few years, while we help our client reverse parts of the Indian Act. Nanustan. We are Butterfly Effect Communications. Find us on LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube, and at our website, butterflyeffectcommunications.ca. We're standing in front of the house that where Ryan went missing, where he was last seen. So, yes. And can you tell me about where we're about to walk, and then what were the possibilities? You said there's a possibility that maybe he would have gone to the right here. So we're on Burfield Drive here in Sun Peaks. And
the route and the possibilities that we're discussing come from if Ryan walked out of the house and went missing on his own. Yep. It does not really take into account the other form, that if somebody was responsible for Ryan to go missing. So I want to preface that with that, because I never want people to think, because I think because I've been so vocal about it, people honestly believe that I only think one thing, and it's not true. It's the one thing we focus on, because it's the only thing we can. So we are doing this journey as if Ryan had walked out of here and somehow went missing on his own with nobody else of involved in that. Yeah,
absolutely. So let's take a walk down here. This is, I think too, I was here that season later, as we talked about a month later, came here and a significant amount of snow that season. So I remember the snowbanks were higher than a vehicle when you came up.
8 to 14 feet we measured at some points. And if you look on these sides here, like a lot of these places are new, but during the time 7 years ago, a lot of places were under construction. Mm-hmm. So there was some, I wouldn't say abandoned buildings, but buildings that were being worked on and renovated. And a lot of these places, if you look, we thought for the first week that they were just duplexes. Did not recognize that some of these places had apartments underneath them. So they're actually 4. Mm-hmm. So that makes a difference too, because there was so much snow, and if you notice, there's no real sidewalk. Yep. So they really, now, if certain times of the year, this time from, I think, April 1st until end of October, you can park on the right side. And then in the other months, you can park on the left side. But at that time, cars were parked on both sides of this street. Mm-hmm. You'll also notice there's no street lights. So it can be pretty dark. You've got high levels of snow, 18 to 14 feet, and you've got cars parked all the way across, because you don't have just a couple of people in here. Yeah. You have several. And every house, if you had a fourplex, you could have had 4 or 5, maybe 6 people living in one up in the top, and then more in the basement. So there's quite a few. If there's cars, there's quite a few traffic in here. You can't see unless someone has security lights on it. So it was, if you could look at a night to have gone missing, between the frigid temperatures, the fact that it was snowing, the fact that it was a record year for snowfall, and there were so many cars on both sides of the road, it's really difficult to imagine how you get from one place to another, how he could have
Yeah. Yeah.
gone missing.
Absolutely. And it's, when you're being out here, just even on, this was a fairly normal season this year. And
Yeah.
we were up on the top of the hill, and if there's 100 centimeters of snow, you're not going far once you're into that. It's not easy to move, and you're going to lose a lot of calories in the process, right? So
absolutely.
It's not easy going.
So there's a couple of places. We just took the Blue Jay Chalet. That was another, at that time, was another place that they could go. So the house that we were originally where he was at was called the Sunday Fun Day House.
Yeah.
Then you had the Blue Jay Chalet, and there's Bar's Den here, and then there was Wolf at the end here, Wolf Creek. So there was a couple of places that the locals would come. Usually it was the lifties, I would say, mostly, or the seasonal workers would come and would spend their time at one of these places. So I know when we talk about it, and people always say the party house or the house that had a party, and maybe that's a great, I know it's semantics when you talk about party or whether it was a gathering, but it was controlled in the sense that they would go from one house to another depending on the week. And so this particular night that Ryan went missing, people congregated at the Sunday Fun Day House. So when he came out to go to Ryan's house, he should have just come out and turned right. And if you see, you'll go all the way down to the end of this, the road where Burfield meets Fairways, and he should have taken left. And if you drop right down there, there's a path that will take him up. Now they're doing constructions. I think looks like there's buildings going up or accommodations. So that's closed off now, but he should have come down and just popped up right by his house. Yeah. The end of the trail pops up, there's his house. It's possible because his roommate James, they came and they were on this side, the opposite side of the road. A lot of times they had been to only Sunday Fun Day House, I think a couple of times in the 2.5 months they've been here. I think they've been on the other side maybe a couple more. And so when James came out, he turned right. And then, and so that led him towards the end of Burfield. At some point, he recognized that he was going the wrong way, although you can connect. It's really difficult to see with the snow and no lights. And if you're not familiar with the area, you probably wouldn't have taken that. You would have turned around and come back on on the road that you were familiar with. And so James recognized that he was going the wrong way. He turned himself around and then headed and went back to his house using the normal route. We just don't know at this point in time if Ryan left the house, and if he left the house, did he turn left? Did he turn right? Right.
Yeah. So that's a challenge.
Yeah.
So let's we'll wander back this way again. And so in the first 24 hours of searching, you received a phone call from someone using Ryan's number, and they masked it to make it appear as though they were calling from his phone.
Yes.
So that obviously had an impact on you. I'm curious about how misinformation, that's part of it, that came there. How does that impact families and searches?
And that was just one drop in the bucket. It was the most horrifying for me because I was sitting in the command center and, the phone rings. And at this time, it's only Monday, maybe Tuesday. So he's only been gone for 2 days. And when the police left us that night, or the search, our Kamloops Search and Rescue, they had said, we didn't find Ryan, but, we've asked the public to look for, to keep an eye out for their outbuildings, sheds and stuff like that. So there's this possibility that you never want to imagine the worst has happened to your child. You want to hold on to his hope as long as you can. And so we thought, okay, well, maybe Ryan got caught up in one of the buildings that was being renovated. He passed out, he got cold, or he just was disoriented or whatever it is. And he's there, he's not doing well, but he's still there. And so, when that phone rang on the Tuesday, I was sitting outside of the command center, just having a moment, just taking a breath. And I see Ryan's name come up on my phone, but it's an iPhone message. It's not like an actual phone call. It was done through an iPhone app or something like that. But I don't recognize that at the moment. I just see his name and all the emojis that had chosen. Like it was, I think there was a monkey and stuff like that, because he was always very mischievous as a child. But anyways, and I picked it up, and it was this prank call. It was some southern old woman asking about toilet paper, right? And then like, you've been pranked by so and so, and I'm just horrified. I don't know who would have done this, why would they have done this, what satisfaction you got from it. And I just remember being so broken at that moment. If there was a catalyst to just do it, up until that time, I think we were shell shocked, but in that moment, it broke me. And I remember we had one of the coworker from my company had come out, and he was sitting there, and he had had experience in law enforcement previously, and so he picked up, and he was trying to figure it all out. And I'm glad in that moment he was there, because I think he provided me some stability. He was able to sit there and go, okay, like these are the things that could have happened. So he was able to sort of walk me through it. And I just remember horrified, obviously. And then someone said to me, I know it was horrifying for you, Heather, but are you not happier that you received it, rather, and not in that sense like happy that you got it, but that you didn't, like it wasn't sitting down, your phone wasn't turned over, you hadn't looked at it, and then you were to look over and to see the number come up from your son, and you missed it. Because I would never have known it would have been a prank. And I could have gone through the rest of my life wondering if in that moment Ryan was calling because he needed me, or he needed to be rescued, or he needed help, or he was in dire straits, and I missed it. And so I look at that, and again, I think that was that moment where you sit there and you make decisions whether you're going to look for the things the silver linings. And even as horrific as that was, I am glad that I took that phone call. If it had to come to me, I'm glad I took it rather than ignored it and always wondered.
Yeah, that's true.
But that's just, I mean, that was one piece. But then, for families going through this, there are so many people out there that are horrific. Like, they will go from group to group to group if you've conducted these Facebook groups, and they will go on there to say the most vile things, I think in hopes of getting some sort of reaction from family members that are already going through the most horrible moments of their life. And they get some sort of perverse satisfaction out of it. And so of course we were not anticipating that. We were not expecting anything like that. And for people to come and create secret groups where they could speculate and they could make fun of us as family members grieving or heartbroken, where they could sort of shift blame and say that we must have been at fault for this, or we were hindering an investigation, like all of those things and misinformation that they spread. I don't mind if people are passionate. I don't mind if people want to speculate. We don't allow it on our page, but that's a natural course of what people do. But when they don't have the information right, and they still go and feel like they're so adamant about it, and that they'll put it on there, what it does is leads to a whole bunch of misinformation. And a case in point for us would have been the whole November. There was a CBC interview that came out that was interviewing and one somebody that was up in fairways all the way up towards the village, heard someone, they said at the end of the night, get in the effing car, get in the car. And they did report it to the police, and the police took it and said, okay, well, let's look through it, and there's nothing to really validate. We can't go any further. We've investigated as far as we can. So it'll be just in this column that unless there's more information, there's not much we can do with it. And when they said it, we had been here for 4 months at that time, and nobody had ever mentioned it. It was the first time we'd ever heard of it. But that just started this stream of everybody. And even now people are like, oh, it's absolutely the truth. And I'm like, it could have been related to Ryan. We don't know. But also the fact is, if you look of where we are now, Ryan would have had to walk all the way down to the end of Burfield, turn right and go all the way into the village. If you try to walk that even now on a beautiful day, it's about 25 minutes, right? So we're talking minus 26. Could he have done it? Absolutely. Had he ever done it before at this time of night? Never. But it doesn't mean that couldn't have happened.
Yep.
It means it might not have been relatable to Ryan, right?
Yeah.
I would say that it's hard to navigate when you're trying to already have information. And we've been very transparent. I think that's what people don't understand, is that I didn't know any better. So would I have done things differently? Maybe, I don't know. But I've always been very transparent about, so anything about the case, there's nothing I know that you don't know, that you couldn't have read in any of the interviews that I've done, in any of the statements or anything on his Facebook post. If you were to look, you would know exactly everything that I know. So we were always transparent, and then you have to go in and countermand that with all this misinformation that people feel so strongly about, and then it just takes on this wave.
Yeah.
Then it's hard to get out from under.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, I think that would be the most difficult thing.
Yeah. Understood. Yeah, that's really good information for people to understand, and hopefully some of those people out there that are doing some of that, thinking that they're helping, maybe will reconsider that in the moment.
You see it over and over again. I always say this one thing. The one thing that I hate the most is people saying someone knows something.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't believe that could be the case. Absolutely, you have to believe everything. But I'm always like, if I always feel defensive when people say that, because I'm like, yes, that's true, but you want, and they're so adamant about it. They want to sit there and say, no, I know it. Somebody knows somebody. Something knows somebody. And I'm like, so you want me to wake up every single day? Good day, bad day, doesn't matter. Every single day for the last 7 years, you want me to wake up thinking every morning that something horrific has happened to my son. Because when you say it, someone knows something. It's not like Ryan's living with unicorns, eating, his cookie dough ice cream every single day and having the best life ever. If somebody knows something, that it's because something horrific happened to my son. That's what you want me to think every day. Like, give me a break from it. Like, it's not that I don't go to bed thinking about it. Just give me a break from it. You don't need to remind me every single day that that's the only thing that I can think of, right? Yeah. And we say that over time, and people still do it. Yeah. Like, I can say it, and I'm a broken record, and I'm the mother, and people will still come up and like, no, someone knows something. I was like, thank you.
I really want to thank the listeners and viewers out there for sticking with us as we navigate some difficult moments over the last year. Unfortunately, we've lost our momentum and are looking for your help as we produce episodes. We have listeners from all over. Here are some of the communities that listen to our episode on volunteer management with Karen Knight: Alamogordo, Anchorage, Brantford, Bridgewater, Brooklyn, Calgary, Dartmouth, Dawson Creek, Friendswood, Hobart, Honolulu, Kamloops, Kingston, Lloydminster, Los Angeles, Medicine Hat, Millbrook, Montreal, Nepean, New Milford, New Westminster, New York, Newburyport, Oak Harbor, Oceanside, Okasee, Ottawa, Parksville, Peterlee, Pierrefonds, Selma, Springfield, The Dells, Toronto, Vancouver, and West Babylon. What amazing support. Thank you. We need you to keep sharing, writing, and rating. Jump over to communicationspodcast.com. Every little bit helps to make this podcast better.
April 27, 2018. Over the past 10 weeks, I've encountered more superheroes than in any movie I will ever see. Living, breathing, walking definitions of what it means to be someone's hero. The best part of being a superhero is that they know their own strengths. Superman couldn't spin webs. Batman wasn't using his Hulk-like strength to fight bad guys. Wonder Woman wasn't wearing baggy sweats and sneakers. Well, you get the picture. And yet every superhero is remembered and revered because when called upon, they use their extraordinary abilities to make the world a better place.
Certainly touch on everybody's mental well-being in your book, and you tell people about people like Daniel, your therapist that came and showed up, and others. And I'm curious what you did to protect your mental well-being as you balance being parents still, because you have 2 daughters at home, and leading a search.
I think those the first couple of months, especially with the misinformation in the secret group that was formed, where they just took posts that I had done and they would screenshot it and put it in the secret group. And then they would make fun, like something. This is what I would have chosen in my life for people to talk about and know about. And so there's a certain part of you that, if you've never really been, I mean, not everybody likes you. I get that. And I'm under no false illusions that, you can do something and people will just automatically think you're the best. I know that's not life. I know that's not reality. But I just didn't expect to be a grieving parent who was trying to be transparent, trying to advocate for my child, to have people so cruel, like so unnecessarily cruel. And so that took a lot. That was a huge part of my mental struggles, I think, is that you had to navigate the fact that people were ugly. But I have to say that was a very small percentage. 99% of the people that came onto the page were very supportive. So I think that helped balance it out a little bit. But I remember when we first came in, and Scott goes, "It's the moment we find Ryan, this town is going to see nothing but my taillights. I will never step another foot back here." And we thought, okay, fair enough. That makes sense. This is where, we lost the brightest light in our family. And I get that. And yet, within minutes, we kept getting notifications from our friends and our family saying, "Here, what do you need from us? What do you need?" And then, we were in this town, and the people within those first seconds were, what can we do to help? Let us get you here. Let's do this. And I think that changed our whole outlook on everything. And we said in that moment to ourselves that we would try to find the silver linings, because if we did not, then what it did was we always thought Ryan's life was a gift to us. And to think of it any other way and not look for that it just diminished what he meant to us. And we couldn't let that happen. And so we tried to look for the silver linings. And I think when you adopt that, or you can, and we're talking about the most difficult situation, so I'm not saying it's easy, but the silver lining came from the fact that we had such community support, that we were cared for and loved for by, the community of Beaumont, where we came from, Kamloops and Whitecroft and Sun Peaks, across the world, across Canada, this love and support. And so for us, it was easier when you started having that, and you knew that on the days that we couldn't stand, that there'd be somebody behind you that was going to help you get to that position. And so that really meant a lot. And I think then you start looking at all of and I think it soothes you, that mental part of it. And also when Danielle, when we had her for grief therapy, it was after the phone call, and of course I'm devastated. I'm now thinking about all these horrific things. Who would be this cruel? Because then you think somebody must have been responsible for Ryan's disappearance, and then they sent this to further taunt. And I remember her coming in, and she's like, "You can only stick with the facts. You knew Ryan was here, and then he wasn't, and we don't know whether he went willingly or unwillingly or unknowingly, but Ryan was no longer where he was supposed to be, and he didn't come home, and then we have him as a disappearance." And so she's like, the challenge is that you think about all the things that could have happened to him, then you start viewing the world through that same lens. So if I thought that somebody had done something horrific to Ryan, I would be constantly, without knowing anything, I could be looking out at the world going, "Was it you? Was it you? Was it you?" And I didn't want to do that. I thought I will face that in the moment, that if I were to find out tomorrow that somebody was responsible for Ryan's disappearance, you never have to worry if I'm going to be angry, if I'm not going to be able to accept it. We've been prepared for this for a long time. But I think that helped with our mental health, is to stick with the facts that we knew and to look for the silver linings. And then on top of that, for me, that ability to sit there and go, if Ryan was able to come back and see what people have done in his name in the last 7 years, he would. And if I could trade places with him, I would in a heartbeat, as would any other parent, I'm sure. Yeah. But neither of those gifts are going to be given to us. And so I never want to meet my son one day, and I believe I will in some form or fashion, and have him be so disappointed in me and say, you squandered what I would have hoarded. I would have come back. I would have breathed deeply. I would have loved more. I would have appreciated the life. And you had it, and you chose to squander it on grief alone. And I thought, that is not what we're going to do. So we're going to find a way to survive. And hopefully along the way, we'll find a way to thrive. And I think part of that was finding some sort of purpose, because there's no reason for Ryan to have gone missing. But maybe there's a purpose that can come from it. Yeah. And that would be advocating for other families, right? So for us, that was it. The communication piece takes a big thing in mental health as well. And we thought our girls had lost so much that it was important for us to make sure that we didn't actively participate in them losing more. Like some families find it difficult to celebrate holidays, go on trips, or let their kids go out and experience life and do those sort of things. And we thought we're never going to, our fears cannot be theirs. Yeah. Yeah. So that's what we do.
Yeah. Rightfully so. And so what was that impact like on your family in that immediate after? Like how, you had 2 girls at home, and you got parents and other cousins and things around you. You were a close family from what I gathered. Like family was a big part of your unit. And so what
I think our girls are amazingly strong. I think if Ryan had to choose a family to come into, he certainly chose the most stubborn. And we have dark humor, so that probably helps us through. As a family, we use dark humor, which is probably not necessarily appreciative by other people. So we keep that sort of in-house. But, yes, the girls were terrified, I think, in that moment, scared. And neither one of them, they're at that age where they don't want to be the subject of, like, everybody looking at them. They don't want to be the center of attention, certainly not in the negative way. They're at that stage, or maybe my girls are just very much not wanting to be the center of attention. So I think the difficult part was Jordan. She was in high school. She was in her last year, going into school and having the pitying looks from everybody, the sad looks. I found it difficult when I came back to Beaumont for the first time and going through the grocery store. And I always needed to have an exit strategy. I need to have something. I'm prepared to drop everything if I go in and I just need this and I'm not feeling up to it. And somebody wants to ask those questions like, how long do you think you're going to search? Or do you really think he's up there? Or, that sort of thing. And I'm like, okay, I can't deal with it. I got to go. And so Jordan didn't have that sort of exit strategy. And so I think it was difficult having to go there and go through the worst moments, but for her, she couldn't stay at home either. She had to go to school. She had to graduate. Those were the goals that she had set for herself. She was committed to doing that. So, but home, being by yourself, or having, Scott's mom was there for a while, and my brother and sister-in-law were there, and she just felt like this, not even my house anymore. Like these people are in it, and I can't grieve in that way. So I think it was difficult for them. Yeah. But they're strong and they're resilient. And I think that shows up now. Although we do see little things now, like not big, but just, we're again close as a family. And so, it'll show up in different ways. The girls not letting us know where they are, or for Jordan, our 25-year-old, because of mine, she has my location on her phone. That's important for her. So, she'll be like, hey, I see you're at this restaurant, like you've been there for a bit. Do you need me to come get you, or something along that lines? So, I recognize that at my advanced stage, my seasoned part of my life, I feel like I'm now, having to make sure that I'm well aware of where they know where I am. And it's funny because Jordan, for some reason, doesn't show up on her on my phone, so I don't know where she is. Yeah. But the youngest one do. So we sort of that's one of the biggest things. They always want to know where we are, when we're coming home, that sort of thing. So that it shows up in those small ways. But other than that, I think the girls are brilliant. They're resilient. They're intelligent. They're caring. They're loving. Like they're just all of those things, and none of those have been diminished by Ryan's disappearance.
Yeah, that's wonderful to hear that they're, I do find children they are very resilient to things that they're met with, and obviously they do need a support network around them, but they do well to adjust to what
and they
happens.
did. They both had great support systems in their friends, and we have this. I would say our extended friends are our family, and so they supported them in ways that I could never truly ever be able to express my gratitude for them, because they saved us, and they really saved our girls.
Yeah, oh, that's great. Yeah. And so, what do you want to tell other families that are looking for their loved ones?
I think people. There's no handbook, right? You're walking in blind. I couldn't have told you one person from the time up until Ryan went missing that I knew of anybody that had a child that had gone missing. So you don't know how to navigate this at all. And I think what's really terrifying is that because you don't know, you've never experienced it before, you have no idea that everybody goes home eventually. You've got search and rescue. We had one day. Again, I will say that we had more days after, but the one day. Other families have received a week. And unfortunately for us, there's no transparency for families across the board. Depends on what law enforcement is handling the situation, what the circumstances are, perhaps the time of year, all of these things. But we as parents and perhaps even the public don't know what those parameters or criteria are. And so it always seems very unbalanced why we got one day and somebody else gets 4 or 5. Now, I don't want somebody else not to have 4 or 5. I would love to have across the board everybody to have the unlimited time until their loved one is found and brought home. It's not realistic, but it doesn't mean that I don't want that. It's just it just doesn't happen that way. And so, you have to plan and prepare for when they do go home. When search and rescue goes home, when law enforcement says, okay, we had that on your way out of town tomorrow or the next day, stop by. Well, you haven't found him. And so do you want us just to wait until the snow melts and someone trips over him like trash? Like what parent wants that to happen? But everybody goes home. And so you need to plan and prepare for that. But you've never been put in this situation. And so it's understanding things like that, knowing that there can be resources out there that you have to tap into them. And I think the biggest thing that parents or family members of missing loved ones need to know is that you are now thrust in the role of an advocate. And if you want something done, unfortunately, you have to advocate for it and strongly, and don't take no for an answer, and don't listen to them when they say you have to have it 24 hours before you can report them missing. Absolutely not. Absolutely. If this was your child, that's what I had said to the superintendent when we first came up here, because there was so many things that we couldn't do. We couldn't get search and rescue in to do certain things that were volunteer search and rescue, not tasked by the RCMP. And I remember saying to the RCMP officer, superintendent, so if this was your child, if this was your loved one, tell me what you'd want to have done, what you'd need to have done, and what you'd pay to have done. And then tell me what those are so that I can do them. And there was no answer for that. And I'm like, well, it would, if you knew and you've had experience, what would you do as a parent to search for your loved one? What resources would you throw at it? Like, what do you have? Like, and provide that to parents so that they can make a decision and they can have those resources in their back pocket and access them as well. But nobody across the board will give you that. And that's a hard thing, because if you don't know you have to advocate, you think you're advocating hard, but it might not be enough to keep them moving and keep them going. April 9th, 2018. Yesterday I cleaned the house we were renting. Today I made banana pancakes for Juliana's breakfast. So mundane, so ordinary. I have forgotten what normal feels like or even means. I hadn't recognized the simplest of tasks would forever become my new simplest pleasures. I longed to be normal, to be utterly bored by my life. Is it human nature to forever be dissatisfied by where you are in your life, at any given time, to push the boundaries? I believed that it was important to stand on the precipice, looking as far as my eyes would go and forever leap, to challenge myself and my ever-changing beliefs. Now I would trade almost anything to see my family whole, my son safe, and my life the way it was. Safe, normal, mundane.
So, what is one book, documentary, or resource that you recommend to those learning about crisis emergency management or those searching?
You know what? I wish I could tell you a bunch of names, but in that moment, I still have not found a book that ever touched on a situation quite like ours. There might be. I just could never locate one at all. So we relied really on sourcing our own resources, and so Missing from Me, the book obviously has some of those resources listed in there. But one of the things that we did is that we, with another family that had gone through similar situations, we co-founded the Freebird Project, which is a nonprofit that provides resources and supports for families of missing loved ones. And so what it does is it allows people, if they feel comfortable and want to reach out to us, they certainly can. But otherwise, they can go through and list by province within their provinces some of the resources that are available to them. So search and rescue, whether they're tasked by the RCMP or local law enforcement, or whether they're volunteer, and then you can reach out to them and help. So we provide those so that people can go look through, have information sheets, fact sheets, what to do within the first 24 hours, 48 hours, that sort of thing. So
yeah, great. That's wonderful. And yeah, I do want to plug your book, Missing from Me, because it does give a person a sense of, like, you have a lot of your journal entries in there as you went along, but you also put in a lot that sort of backs up what the experience was like and those things that you did think about day to day and some of the things you maybe would have done differently.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
Yeah. And what advice would you give information officers or communicators managing a crisis or emergency that would help them to perform their job more effectively?
I would say probably three things. I think one is the transparency. I think, families want to know what is being done to bring their loved one home. I remember when we had from our RCMP, they said, on the way out of town tomorrow, the next day, just stop in. And I just thought, I don't know what that means, right? So having, I think your biggest fear as a family member is that people are going to stop looking and that you have to keep pushing and pushing. And so even that constant line of communication where they're accountable to their actions means the difference to families going through. They don't have to wonder, they don't have to worry about that. I would say the other one is managing expectations. So we had, Search and Rescue had come up and they were a volunteer group, great group. But they came up telling us already beforehand that if Ryan's here, we're 110% sure we'll find him. And so, you put all your eggs in that one basket, and then when the moment comes and they don't, you're devastated. Although you find out later that there's a whole plethora of reasons why that may not have happened. So better to not have said that than for me to count on that. And then we're already grief-stricken, so that tears you down even more. So I would say if you can manage expectations by letting them know, this is what's happening, these are the probability, this is what can happen, what may happen, and what might not happen, and have you prepare for it. Better to be prepared than panicked about the whole thing. And I would say the last thing is ego, is that, even as parents, we can imagine every scenario under which Ryan went missing. And we have no way of knowing which one that is. And yet we're prepared for whatever answer comes in the moment that someone finds Ryan and we're able to bring him home. But we had a search and rescue, a manager who was quite clear that because he was out searching the one day in that task, that because he hadn't found him, that he was no longer here. That may be true. It may not be true. But, even at the end of the day, if your thoughts about what happened to Ryan and my thoughts are different, we're not winning a prize if you end up your scenario fits and that's what happened. You don't win a prize. No one ever sits there and goes, "Oh, Heather, you're the most intelligent person. You were able to figure it out over everybody." We don't win anything. We might get closure, but that's it. And so we really found that people's ego plays a huge part in it, especially your officials that are coming out. If they could just suspend that and be open to everything, because for as many people that have gone missing and have been found, there's several others that were located within the same area of which they were searched for, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so how do you maintain your mental well-being during the most intense moments?
We probably touch black humor. I think we're sarcastic, and so that's within our family. But also the support from our family and friends. I know that, I try to look at through the lens of, it does not matter whether I am standing, I'm kneeling, or I'm lying down. The world and the sky will just pass by you the same way. It's just your view through it is a different, you look at it through a different lens. So on the days that I can't stand, I kneel. On the days I can't kneel, I lie down. But I always know that there's somebody behind me that will help prop me up and get me to that. So I rely a lot on my extended, like I said, my friends or my extended family. And so that they are the most important. My husband, my daughters, my mom and dad, like, they all provide this supportive network, and I'm willing to accept it. And the communication is key, talking over those feelings when we feel at our worst, explaining it, saying, I'm not there today. I don't know why today is really affecting me the way it is, but it isn't, being clear about that and knowing it's okay to be gentle on yourself. You don't have to do it all. I don't have to be Wonder Woman.
Yeah, true.
Right.
And I do have one bonus question for you. We are standing in the spot here where it's a possibility that Ryan might have come down this way, gone down behind that log over there, and taken a route around that way to his host. But I'm wondering, though, of all the possibilities and all the things, what can people do to help find Ryan?
I think it's continue advocating. Like, our searching efforts have been scaled down because it's hard after 7 years with the deadfall and the brush, and we don't know if he were to leave. So we always look at it going, on the bucket where someone knows something and that Brian potentially was taken away or something happened to him or somebody was responsible for him. Those are things that we can't investigate. We're not investigators. That's not our skill set. So why we focus so much on being up here and searching, that sort of thing, we can search and we can advocate. Those are the things that we can do as loved ones, family members, as parents. So that's what we stick to. We have to allow the authorities to do the things that they have the skill set for. So I would just say, continue to advocate if you're out, especially if you come to Sun Peaks, without being intrusive, do purposeful walks, that sort of thing. We're looking for now articles of his clothing, his keys, wallet, that sort of thing. And then just in general, like, if you can't help us and we appreciate it, you share the word, spread awareness, that's wonderful. But look around in your own community. Is there a way that you can be kind, where you can help other families that perhaps do not have the same resources or networks that we do? There's a disparity in the way people are searched for, and there's a disparity in how they're advocated and how they're, all of those things. And so if you can provide that to other family members, what a gift you give them.
Yeah, absolutely. So the hashtag is Find Ryan Shtuka. And there's a Facebook group, of course. So encourage people to join. And thank you so much, Heather. I really appreciate the time and for opening your heart and your story and joining me on the Wildfires, Floods, and Chaos Communications podcast.
Thank you.
Thanks. This week, I ask you to share all missing person reports in your community. Behind every missing person is a family member desperate for answers. And as you heard, there is little support after the first week. It is especially important to build public awareness and tips in the immediate period after someone goes missing. And if possible, help by joining a search party. Learn more about Ryan Shtuka at ryanshtuka.com. That's RyanShtuka.com. Again, it's ryanshtuka.com. See more information in our show notes at Communications Podcast. Communications has an S, as in, sorry, I'm not going to spell that one. Stick around at the end as I take a Shtukasaurus on its first adventure. This clever idea has resulted in Ryan's story spreading around the world many times. I'm very thankful to Heather for opening her heart to me and for being willing to share such personal moments. Thank you to you, our audience, for joining the Wildfires, Floods, and Chaos Communications podcast. We welcome guest topics and suggestions, ratings, and of course, more listens and views over at communicationspodcast.com. I recorded 2 episodes last week and booked another. More content is coming. The Wildfires, Floods, and Chaos Communications podcast is a production of Butterfly Effect Communications, copyright 2025 and 2026. Goodbye. Hear me in a moment, then later. Well, I'm here in Nelson, and I have one of these little green dinosaurs, and it is for Ryan Shtuka. And I'm just going to read it here. Missing is Ryan Shtuka, 20-year-old who disappeared at Sun Peaks Resort in British Columbia, Canada on February 17th, 2018. Extensive and ongoing search efforts have given no clues to Ryan's location. We would appreciate if you could share Ryan's story and a picture of where you found this dino. So this dino is going to begin here. It is the Shtukasaurus, and it's to talk about his story, and that their family and friends have done this from really early on, from when Ryan went missing. And so I've had a beautiful time here in Nelson, and little Shtukasaurus is going to start their adventure up here on this bench at a bus stop with a gorgeous view. So I gave Shtukasaurus a nice little tour of BC on the way down, had a front row seat. And so if you happen to find one of these, take a picture, share the information with others, and there's where little Shtukasaurus is going to start their adventure. Let's hope we can find Ryan someday.